All right, let's dive in with our sort of fossil feature, because we've also had a question sent through to us. In fact, Sam sent it through to me, and I've had it 3 other people email us here in the UK, and I suspect John and the head office in Australia has had quite a number of people asking us about this brand new dinosaur find from the day that the asteroid hit the Earth. So, you know, the day that wiped out the dinosaurs? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment, because well, there's some interesting little things to discover with that. But let's have a look at some of our fossils from the museum collection here. I've got a couple of them tonight. This is our first one. They're both actually the same type of fossil. Let's hold it up so we get it nicely into focus, so you can see. If I hold it sort of like that, that should get nicely into focus for you. There we go.
There we
Beautiful.
go.
Look at that.
That's good.
I wonder if you're able to recognize this fossil. It's quite an obvious one. It's a living fossil as well. I actually dug this up from Whitby, from a particular part of the cliff there called the Whitby plant bed. So there's a clue as to the type of fossil that it is. I mean, this is a small one, right? It just sort of kind of fits in my hand. But have a look at this one. There we go. It's a much bigger one. In fact, hold it in front of me. There we go. You can just about see it. See it all the way across here. Absolutely beautiful. There's even some on the back as well. You can see some of the imprints. There we go. Some of the imprints on the back.
Lovely.
And yes, we lugged probably half a ton of rocks off the beach over several days of collecting and digging and finding fossils. Any idea what it is? Diane, you might recognise this.
I've got an idea. Can I guess?
Go on, you have a go.
Is it a fern?
No, it is not.
Oh!
So this is from Yorkshire in the UK, right, from Whitby. But Diane, you might be able to recognise it because it's actually an Australian plant.
Yes, it looks more like an Oricaria pine to me. Yes.
Sort of like a pine or a cycad or something like that. These ones are most likely the cycads.
Yes,
right?
that small one there, that's a cycad.
This one's either one of the very large extinct cycads, or it's one of the big Oricaria trees, for sure. Yeah, it's probably definitely there's some cycads on the back here as well.
Yes,
cycads are quite interesting. There was a news flash a little while back, it was a couple of years ago now, where the Isle of Wight had the first ever flowering cycad in 65 million years.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
It was in the news, because of course they blame it on climate change, but the one thing you should pay attention to is the fact that even on an evolutionary timescale, 65 million years ago, it was the same climate as it was today. In fact, a lot of evidence says it was even warmer. So you have to find these little climate clues from climate change, and you can go to our fact file and stick in climate change if you want more information. But a few quick things about these. First of all, cycads are living fossils. The name that Charles Darwin gave them, they're supposed to be anomalies. Charles Darwin didn't particularly like them because they're not particularly helpful to his theory of evolution. He said that his theory hinges on the organism or the creature or the plant not necessarily being the most strongest, but the one that's most adaptable to change. And of course, these plant fossils in the Jurassic, supposedly 170 to 200 odd million years old, and they haven't changed one bit. There's just simply no evolution in them in the slightest. So some really interesting thoughts that you can sort of delve into with these wonderful fossils. And in fact, both of these fossils come from a rather large display that we have here in the UK, our living fossils display. We have a whole display of them with cycads and seahorses and pipefish and nautilus and jellyfish, seashell, starfish, pecten shells, the sort of scallop shells, loads and loads of different examples of living fossils that you can come and find out the importance of them as well. So there's a nice little fossil feature for today. I thought what I'd do, see, when Sam sent me through the email and he sent me through the links to this BBC News report, I thought, well, perhaps if I have time, I'll be able to pull together a whole PowerPoint presentation about it. And I didn't have time when I was with the school kids all day. But what I thought I'd do, because it's actually interesting, because Diane, this is not a new discovery, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah,
no, we actually wrote about it in our newsletter when it first came out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yes.
back in
Mm.
April 2019 when this
Yes.
site was first discovered, and in fact, this dinosaur was first discovered as well. So, why has the BBC suddenly started talking about it again, and what evidence does it actually show in terms of asteroids and fossils and flooding and all of that kind of stuff? So, what I thought I'd do is share my screen and just run through some of the article here and point out a few key things. So there's the BBC News article, right? 1 day ago, it came out yesterday on the 7th of April 2022. And then up here, you can see the original article. Incredible fossil may be first victims of dino killer asteroid, published on the 1st of April 2019. Now, it wasn't an April Fool's joke. It was a real article published by the rather well-known and fairly prestigious New Scientist. And this is actually an article which John and Diane published on the 11th of April 2019. It was published in our Evidence News, volume number 19. And you can see there's the description of what they found, a little bit about the reports, and just like any creation evidence news, a little bit of an editorial comment as well with some interesting stuff. So let me very quickly just bring this back up, and I'll just stick this up on the screen because you too can actually go and there we go. You can go and check out the link as well. Creation Research Evidence News. We can put this up in the chat in just a moment. So go and read the original article that John and Diane put out. What's that? 3 years ago now.
Yes,
so
almost
really,
exactly.
Almost exactly. Yeah. So really interesting article. But let's just run through some of the interesting things. So first of all, here's the headline, right? Fossil of dinosaur killed in asteroid strike found, scientists claim. Fossil of dinosaur killed in asteroid strike. All right, let's scroll down the article and see what they've actually found. I mean, there's the video, right, with a rather, I mean, that is a stunning, brilliantly preserved dinosaur leg. It is just remarkable. So for sure, this didn't take millions of years to form. For sure, this was a catastrophic burial. For sure, this was a very rapid, extremely rapid burial, almost mummifying the creature before permineralizing it, and it's got all the skin and the scales and everything intact. It's absolutely beautiful. It's from the Tanis fossil site here in the US state of North Dakota, right? And then they say here, but it's not just their exquisite condition that's turning heads, it's what these ancient specimens are purported to represent. The claim is that the Tanis creatures were killed and entombed on the actual day a giant asteroid struck Earth. The day 66 million years ago, when the reign of dinosaurs ended and the rise of mammals began. Now, it's interesting because if you go to the original article in New Scientist, it really says further down that there's not really that much evidence to be able to link this dinosaur find to the exact day that the asteroid strike found, and they still haven't found any particular information that would actually categorically link it to the day of an asteroid. Very few dinosaur remains have been found in rocks that record even the final few thousand years before impact. Of course, the interesting thing is, surely if the asteroid was the thing that wiped out the dinosaurs, and there's still a lot of scientists who disagree with that today, and even secular scientists, right? We're not just talking Earth creationists. There are a number of secular scientists who disagree with it, but surely you would be looking for dinosaurs having died after the asteroid impact, if that was the thing that wiped it out, not before, unless you're claiming that it killed all the dinosaurs off within just a few days and only the mammals were able to survive by some miracle or magic, if you want to put it another way. It's interesting. Why is this suddenly come back out in the news again, particularly on the BBC? Your answer is here. The BBC has spent 3 years filming at Tanis for a show to be broadcast on April 15th, narrated by Sir David Attenborough. In other words, the reason why this has hit the news is this is essentially an advert for the BBC, published by the BBC about a BBC a BBC documentary. That's all really it is. It's not a new discovery at all. All right, what can we learn from it? Let's have a little bit of a dig down. We see a fossil turtle that was skewered by a wooden stake. That sounds pretty catastrophic. And it's also a turtle buried next to a dinosaur. Remains of small mammals. So mammals were around for sure. The burrows they made, skin from a horned triceratops, the embryo of a flying pterosaur, and what appears to be a fragment from the asteroid impactor itself. Now, there's lots of other interpretations than just an asteroid impactor. Even the scientists who've published papers on this say that it's a bit contentious just automatically assuming that this is an asteroid impact. There's other things that could be at play here, including volcanoes, including other things. But certainly, it's a remarkable site in terms of preservation. And then in particular, notice this. The North Dakota fossil site is a chaotic jumble. Now, we've had some criticism since our program with Standing for Truth saying that fossils are found beautifully ordered, they're not in a mess, there's no evidence of a worldwide flood at all. Well, I'm afraid you can see it right here, disagreeing with you. This site, this fossil site, is a chaotic jumble. There is no order to it. You've got turtles and fish and dinosaurs and wood all buried together. The remains of animals and plants, the article says, seems to have been rolled together into a sediment dump by waves of water set in a train by unimaginable earth tremors. Aquatic organisms are mixed in with the land-based creatures. Notice the reference to a water actually mixing these together. You're looking at evidence for a flood for sure. I mean, that's where the site is supposed to be. That's where Tanis is. That's a fair distance away, really. Could it have been from the asteroid, or could there be something else in play? Well, as you carry on looking down, they mention a few other interesting things as well, including this bit here. Here's the fossil. They weren't feathered. Animal whose leg has simply been ripped off really quickly. No evidence of leg disease, no obvious pathologies, no trace of the leg being scavenged or anything. The best idea we have is that the animal died more or less instantaneously. It died while being buried. Here is a lovely picture, artist's impression, artwork.
Mm.
The thinking is a water surge buried all the creatures in Tanis. Why? Because that's where the evidence leads. This was a flooding event for sure. A massive flooding event which brought the fish and the turtles and everything else onto the land, swept over the land, and buried all the creatures extremely quickly, with such power actually ripping the leg off and everything else. All right? So this isn't a burial from the asteroid impact, it's a burial from a flood for sure. And you can even see here there are a number of scientists who are rather skeptical of this actually being on the day of the asteroid impact. So you see the difference between the title, like the headline, and what is actually being found here. It's possible that the animals had died before the impact. You've got things in their gills and everything else. Beautiful preservation of baby pterosaur eggs and dinosaur eggs and everything else inside it as well. So the one thing's for sure, a few things to take away. Number one, this isn't new. This is an old discovery which has already published on this discovery. Number two, all this really is a promo for the BBC. Number three, all of the evidence leads you to naturally conclude that it was a massive flooding event that actually caused this, produced this fossil site. Right? The question is, what caused the flooding event? Was it an asteroid? Well, even secular scientists are not convinced that it was an asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. A whole number of them signed an article not too long back saying that there just simply isn't enough evidence. It is a popular theory. It is not necessarily one, it's certainly not one that all of science holds a consensus on, and we're talking secular here, right? There's so many other things that can produce this volcanic ash layer rather than just meteorites, volcanoes, for instance. So there's definitely volcanic tissue and volcanic material here on this site. It could just be from a volcano, not necessarily from an asteroid. So yes, more evidence of Noah's flood for sure, no doubt about it. Buried together with flying creatures and swimming creatures and fish and turtles and dinosaurs and wood, all dumped down, all buried together in a chaotic mess. Definitely evidence for a global flood, for sure.